George Yunis. I'm the Senior Director of Creative Services in the ARAMARK Corporation. I find that the Digital Signage Expo is, besides being a great meeting place or a juncture for everybody in the industry, the Expo is a great opportunity to sort of track and follow trends and understand the general sort of direction that this group of participants, whether they're exhibitors, manufacturers, end users of operator networks, creative providers, where they're collectively and individually heading. So it's a great chance once a year to really get a sense for that. The changes that I've seen with the place-based media sort of segment or industry as a whole, there's a few ways where it's stayed the same in terms of the focus on hardware and software and the evolution of those two, but I think the biggest changes we've seen over the last particularly 2 years are a focus on the strategy, not only of content, but the strategy of integration and converging the digital signage piece with mobile and social and with traditional advertising. That focus is becoming more and more sort of omnipresent. I think it's a little past the infant stage. It's probably in the pre-K, early grade school level. The general sense I have of this industry is that in some ways it's extremely forward-thinking, but in some other ways it's lacking a little bit of general structural kind of cohesion around how to fit in the landscape of marketing, advertising, brands, brand experience, those kinds of things. I think it's been more of the technology led the way initially, and the idea that you could put, sort of TV-like messages in any environment was sort of so seemingly relevant that it sort of gave a big shot in the arm to the industry, but we struggle a little bit now with that same say benefit is sort of a curse now, because it sort of creates a little bit of isolation of this entire segment. So I see us as being poised for enormous integration-based growth if we do things right in understanding the needs of traditional marketers and media, and understand the needs of environment and space planners, and most importantly, understand the needs of connected consumers. Probably the biggest need, and it's probably a cliche, frankly, the biggest need is really around sort of education information and around the ability to sort of consistently communicate the key components or elements of what place-based media offers, not only to consumers when they're in any kind of a retail or venue environment, but also what it offers to brand marketers, advertisers, and people who need to maybe inform and educate. And on that topic of education, I think that the real focus needs to be, from our perspective, at least at ARAMARK, and I think in general, the focus needs to be on educating not so much just the people in our industry, like, again, manufacturers, content and software creators and so forth, but really educating those people who need to communicate to connected consumers, those people that those consumers that are connected not only through smart devices, but connected through every form of media, kind of anywhere, anytime. Our ability to educate the biosphere, so marketers, advertisers, all the way through to the consumer, about how important the connection between traditional media, traditional shopper behavior, traditional merchandising strategies, and how place-based media can support, pull that together, and then feed that all up to the mobile, smart, and new media sort of markets and channels. So it's a big deal, education. The question of sort of, if you could just pick anything, what would you do to really sort of either harness or leverage or create a leading position? I think it's critical to do two basic things as one sort of strategy. One is to truly understand how to harness mobile, because that's the great disruptor. Mobile is going to have and is having more of a disruptive influence and impact on business today, marketing and so forth, for today and the foreseeable future, than even the internet had in the 80s and 90s. So you have to understand that mobile is not only going places, but it is so fundamental to the equation. I think if I'm looking at how I would integrate digital signage or place-based media, for me it's all about a complete approach to place-based media, integrating traditional media into, with, and through mobile media and mobile channels. So the way I would do that, it's a long answer, but the way I would do that is this. I would look at the idea of context. You need to know where the consumer is physically, you need to know where the consumer is sort of state of mind, and you need to know where the consumer is in terms of their traditional or typical behaviors. So to do that, you've got to have a way to use a smart device as both a tool that enables their lifestyle, but also, frankly, it's a bad word, but tracks or follows or interprets and provides insights about their lifestyle, and integrate that with the touch points that place-based media can offer in any environment, and then think about being able to do that in aggregate. So I'm at the convention center, I've got a smart device that is communicating with and to the environment. It's able to connect me in many ways, accelerate or enable my behaviors or the things I want to do or even the decisions I want to make. And then I leave to go to the airport, and that same environment exists. I get home at my airport, and then I go that night shopping or for dinner. And each of those places, I have an ability to consistently interact with environments in a way that isn't tracking me in a cynical way, but is helping to understand my behaviors in a way that streamlines the things that are important to me, wherever I go, whenever I go, and with whomever I go. So that's a broad kind of challenge, but the technology exists today to start doing that very effectively. I don't know what I'd call it, but I think of it as sort of an idea of implementing a physical browser sort of approach. So if you think of how we browse the web with a mobile device, on our computer, whatever, the ability to physically browse the environment around you and the web and mobile through your smart device. And then the connecting points are venue, place-based media, digital signage, kiosks, and other things like that. And all of that is supported by traditional media to enforce, introduce, reinforce, or even interrupt brand messages that are appropriate to my lifestyle. You know, it's interesting. This year at the show, there were some really neat technologies, as always. You know, one of the dangers when you come to a place where everybody gathers is it sort of is hard to process all of it, and sometimes it's hard to kind of differentiate some of it. But I saw something that, as a guy who kind of leads or heads up a creative services and kind of consumer engagement team at a big company, what I saw this year that still stands out the most so far, and I'm waiting to see what I'll see the rest of the day today, is the fact, I was reminded of the fact that great design, great creative, when it's focused on human beings and how they need and like and want to be engaged, sort of trumps everything. So I saw a real nice technology implementation, nothing revolutionary, cutting edge, new to the world, but you know, nice, really nice use of technology, but pretty standard, frankly, but designed so well that it just simply stops you in your tracks and you want to engage with it, and you want to interact with it, and you want to learn from the experience, and you don't even know first what it is. So that to me is genius. When you're in, it's not about toothpaste, or it's not about the car I want to buy. I don't even care, I just want to engage with it. There's something special there and magical, and one of the exhibitors here did that, and it was really, it is and was very, very powerful. One of the things I noticed at this year's show that really was heartening for me, as a son of immigrants, a first-generation American, was really the international participation, the number of people that were visibly, noticeably present from many countries. And besides legitimizing the event itself here, what it really does is it puts an emphasis on, one, the common needs and interests, and the fact that, well, consumers are very different demographically and so on, ethnographically. In some ways, they're not so different. We're all human beings, and we all are sort of stimulated by certain things in similar ways. And so as I saw the people in attendance, and I've spoken to a number of them, and a little shout out to Brazil in particular, where our family's from, it was very important to me to sort of focus, kind of think about education, and being a part of the Digital Signage Federation Board of Directors now and focusing on the education category, I think it's so critical to really create universal platforms for educating and sharing knowledge, and particularly programs that really recognize that this isn't just a US or an English-speaking phenomenon, obviously. And so I think it's exciting, it's great, and I think it's probably the biggest area of growth for the DSE in particular, and for the digital signage industry as a whole in the US and around the world, is this idea of integrating globally. Seu Jorge Yunis, da corporação ARAMARK de Filadélfia, nos Estados Unidos. Seja parte do DSE, the Digital Signage Industry and Expo. Seja parte da tecnologia, the Digital Signage and Place-Based Media. Seja parte da oportunidade e seja parte do futuro. Bem-vindo à DSE em Las Vegas. A gente quer ver vocês, tudo, de Brasil, Latinoamérica, Europa e todo mundo.